A few weeks ago, I started my Testing My Eyeshadow series. This series is heavily inspired by Hayley O, who also does this series, and I love watching it. And you guys really loved part one. So part one was testing all of my drugstore eyeshadow palettes, and today I am testing all of my indie eyeshadow palettes. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 palettes to go through today. I have tested them all. They are all indie brands. We all love indie brands, and that is what I'm going to be doing today. I have a tier system. Each palette is either a green palette, meaning I love it, an amber palette, meaning I like it, it's not the best, and then some palettes maybe a red palette, which is like, I don't know why I'm keeping this. But just before we do jump into the video, if you have not already, you know what to do. Like and subscribe. I upload every single day on this channel. I love bright, fun, colourful makeup. As you can probably tell today, I love this look so much. And I also love project panning as well. I do a hell of a lot of project pans. So if you like seeing empties and hit pan and pan those eyeshadows, pan that palette, all that good fun stuff, then definitely go ahead and subscribe. Everything on my face today, as well as everything that I talk about in this video, as always, will be linked down in the description box. If you see something that takes your fancy, then you definitely should check that out down there. They are affiliate links, so thank you so much if you do use those links. Okay, let's jump into it. So I don't think I have a massive indie brand collection. I definitely would like more. I know I'm getting a few in PR. Not get me, but I'm gonna start with my baby. This is my newest palette in my collection. She's a bit dusty, I don't know where she's been, but this is the Frozen Dreams palette from the Pastel Roses. I don't know why this palette is so hard for me to open. I don't know what it is, but it just feels weird. I never know how to hold it. So here we go. This is the Frozen Dreams palette. Something I will say, and this has nothing to do with the palette. How do I describe it? The paper that is used to line the inside of this palette, it really, like, it goes through me. It's really, I don't know, it's like really dry, squeaky paper. And ooh, I don't know what it is. The outside is like nice and smooth, like it's glazed. Is that the right word? But inside, it's like sticky, and but it's not sticky, it's just the paper. Oh, I don't know, there's something about the inside of this palette. Maybe it's just me being really like sensitive and stuff, but the colour story, I love the colour story. This is a green palette. As I said, it is my newest palette in my collection, so I've only done one look with this, so take this with a pinch of salt maybe, but I love the Pastel Roses. It is my favourite brand. This is my first eyeshadow palette from them that I own. I absolutely love it. There are a few things that I would change for my personal preference. I have noticed that the Pastel Roses pre-made palettes aren't necessarily my personal style to a T. I love the colour story, however, I'm definitely more grunge. I am kind of wearing very similar shades today, to be honest. I prefer more grunge, I prefer more just like nasty shades, you know what I mean? So I probably would change that. But I do love this palette. That's just complete personal preference. So what have I put? The Pastel Roses shimmers never fail to leave me speechless, and this palette is the same. These shades are nuts. This is insane. Oh, here we go. I'm swatching. I've started already. Like, these shimmers are ridiculous. You can see this duochrome so clearly, or I'm hoping you can anyway. It's like the most beautiful pink to blue. And then this gold, it's not a duochrome, but look at the shine on that. It is nuts. The Pastel Roses shimmers are just the love of my life. I absolutely adore them so very, very, very much. I put the mattes could be a little more pigmented, and I would have liked some more variety between the shades for some more depth. Yeah, definitely. These two shades, they blend very, very well. I feel like they are quite similar though. And I would have definitely put like a deep, grungy, bluey green, a bit like Axis from the Subculture palette. I would have definitely put something like that in there as well for more depth in the blue section. But again, my personal preference, I know some people absolutely love this like pastel kind of color story, and it's very on brand for the Pastel Roses as well. So I'm not going to take that away from this palette. I can always grab Axis if I want that more grungy blue deep tone. They blend beautifully, making it a whimsical, sparkly dream. And this was a gift for Valentine's Day from my boyfriend. So I'm very, very happy with this. It is such a beautiful palette. And the duochromes, especially the shimmers, are incredible. I love them so much. I know I don't like pink too much, but as I'm wearing today, pink and blue together, I do really, really enjoy. I think it's such a good palette, and I'm so happy that I finally got to try the Pastel Roses eyeshadow palettes, because I hadn't for a while. I rave about their single eyeshadows so much, and I've never tried their palettes until very, very recently. So I'm very happy about that. So next we have a palette that I've had for a while, and this is the Odin's Eye Christmas Eve palette. Now this is what I mean when I say I like a dirtier color story. This, like, grungy. I know this was the least favorite of the two that released at the time, and I want Justice for Christmas Eve palette. Okay, this is stunning. This is so beautiful. This is right up my alley. These are the shades that I love to wear. I love blues. I love these grungy greens. I love this taupe. I have hit pan in Blue Ice in my Pan Those Eyeshadows series, and it was an absolute dream to work on. These shimmers are so... I'm swatching again. I'm doing it. Uh-oh. Look at this duo. Can you please say you can see that? This is... oh, it's magical. These shimmers are nuts. Again, shimmers, I love a good shimmer. I love a good PC duochrome shimmer, and these have it all. These three shades together, they're like a beautiful mermaid. I absolutely adore it. I adore it. I need to wipe them off, because otherwise I will sit here and look at them all day. This, of course, is a green palette. I love it so much. So what have I said? The formula of this palette is really stunning. Love the mattes. They blend together beautifully, and the shimmers are extremely PC. Mwah! Literally my favorite formula in the world. If you don't like a PC shimmer, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. PC shimmers, they're just the best things in the world. I put some of the shimmers lacquer base pigment, which I would prefer. Now, I wrote this a few days ago. Am I going to change my mind on that? I think a mix of based shimmers and non-based shimmers are nice. But again, this shade Wonderful doesn't have much of a base. Snowlight doesn't have much of a base. It is very much a kind of sheer wash. I think you can kind of see there. You're not going to fill a cut crease and have a yellow cut crease with this, so you would need a matte base underneath. Sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's not. Again, it just depends on the look that you're doing. It depends if you remember to do it, all that kind of stuff. I don't think I'm going to take it away from this palette too much, because it's a nice mix. It is a nice mix. I do like just everything in this palette. It is so nice. So I do find it challenging to come up with a cohesive color story with this palette. And this is the main thing. Maybe it's just my creativity that's a bit lacking, but I can see there's a nice like blue color story here. You can make a nice blue look. But other than that, like you could probably do like a greeny grungy look with this green as well. Maybe a purpley mauvey look here. But I do find it sometimes a little bit difficult to make a full look with this, and I don't know why. I just look at it and I want to do either just these blues or very, very basic stick to one color story. I'm not sure why. I've never really had that with a palette before. I've never really struggled coming up with looks with the colors. I'm just having a little bit of a mental block with this palette, I think. Let me know, do you have this palette and do you think the same thing? Is it me? Am I just being a bit weird? I'm sure if I sat down and really focused and said, right, we are going to come up with a color story, we're going to come up with something out there and in your face and a little bit different, I would be able to come up with something, but I don't know. I'm having a little bit of a mental block. I do still love it though. I have said as well, this shade Lean Bob Tart looks like a matte. It's like a satin. It has like a sheen to it. I don't like that. I did a look with the greens and the yellows, and then that was my last blending out shade, and I feel like it did kind of ruin the look because I just had this weird sheen over the eye. I don't like these shades. I know ABH do them a little bit as well. I don't understand mattes with a sheen in them. And I'm not talking about sequin shades or anything like that. I'm talking about when you blend it out on the eye, it has a reflection almost. I don't like that. I would definitely prefer just a matte, a normal matte, and you can't really see it in the pan, so it definitely does take you by surprise. But I mean, overall, I do love this palette. It's so, so nice. I need to pull this out more because it definitely does get neglected. Ooh. But yeah, I love it. I think it's really nice. I think, especially for the winter, beautiful. It is me in a palette, to be honest. Just to look at it, very me. And yeah, I love it. Okay, next we're going to talk about a tiny, tiny palette. Look at this. This is the Shall We Makeup Deathless Spirit palette. It is so small, but it packs a punch, let me tell you that. I did do a get ready with me using this palette. I'll link it up in the cards. I did a really nice blue wing. This duochrome Saint, we're swatching again. It's a dangerous path. It's like a blue to purple. It's just like the most beautiful, pearly, shimmery. Oh, it's stunning. I didn't realize how stunning this shade was until I swatched it the first time. It looks very unassuming in the pan, but look at this. It is so beautiful. I love this deep blue. I love the accent of this like chartreusey, yellowy, greeny shimmer. I love blue with a pop of yellow. This palette is right up my alley color story wise. So what have I said? The multi-chrome in this palette takes my breath away every time. It just does. The other shimmers are very pigmented and beautiful too. The darkest wouldn't be used too regularly, so that's the shade Myth. I don't necessarily use super dark shimmers often at all, so that is a little bit of a letdown with this palette, but again, that is such personal preference. You know what you're getting in a color story if you buy a palette. Like, I can't knock the color story because I saw the palette and I bought it, you know? And it does work very well with the color story. It's just my personal thing. Like, when would I use this? Maybe on the edge of a cut crease, but that's kind of it. I put the matte is really pigmented and goes with the color story really well. However, it can be really difficult to blend on its own without it getting a bit patchy. So I did do a dedicated review to this little palette. I'll link that up in the cards as well. And I tried to put this deep matte blue temple all over the lid, and then I just tried to blend it out with itself without using a transition shade. It did get patchy, but am I going to take that away from it? Because I don't know, you're not really supposed to be blending out super deep tones on their own. You are normally meant to use a bit of a transition shade to help it out. But then again, it is the only matte in the palette, so what else am I going to use, you know? It's one of those. It's a green palette though, all the way. I absolutely love it. I'm so happy I did a review on this. I'm so happy I bought it. I love this, and it's not too big. It's not so over-facing. You can get bigger versions of it. I think this is so nice, especially for me who has a massive makeup collection. Having a tiny baby eeny weeny palette, love. I get the color story, I get the formula without having a 10+ year commitment to the palette. 10 years, who am I? It's more like 50. Okay, I feel like I'm getting boring because once again we have a green palette. However, after this, we have a few, not duds, but a few that I'm not so much of a fan of. But this is my P. Louise Stack 'em Up palette. Again, right up my street. Absolutely love this. I really think this is a really nice color story. I love this pop of purple in it. It just makes it a little bit different, and it kind of allows you to go not just one, not just two, but also 3 ways with this. You can do blue, you can do teal, and you can do like more of a purpley look. I really, really like this. The mattes are so beautiful, and it makes me sad that I can't reach for this more because I really do love this. These blues, they are, for my personal preference, a little bit too primary blue, but again, my personal preference. I would wear these all the time. I literally don't care. It's slightly off for my personal preference. I can't tell you what it is. It's just slightly off. It's mostly talk is cheap. I don't know. But I love it. I would wear them. I would happily wear them for a very long time. Just something slightly too primary blue for me. These teals, So stunning, so beautiful, so pigmented, absolutely amazing. I love how you have blending out shades for everything, beautiful. I will say this shimmer, we've kind of spoken about dark shimmers before in this video. This shimmer is slightly too dark for my personal preference. I love bright, light, airy shimmers. Slightly too dark, and it doesn't really go with these blues. It only kind of goes with these teals. I mean, you can put a shimmer wherever you want. You can put this in a purple, orange, yellow look for all I care. Like, you put eyeshadows wherever you want. But for me, I probably wouldn't put this with these blues. Maybe it's like a pop on the lower lash line. My creativity's been slacking recently, okay? So if I say something and you're like, what? Don't blame me. This shade is stunning. This is like Lumi from the ColourPop Blue Moon palette, but it is slightly more yellow tone. You can't really see it. My hand is stained already. Oh my god. This has a slight more yellowiness to it. Lumi is very blue, like blue, and I love that. I'm naming my dog Lumi when I get one. Ben doesn't have a choice. I've already told him. But this palette, it is so beautiful. I really do enjoy it. What have I said? My first experience with P. Louise eyeshadow, I really love this palette. The colour story is obviously right up my street. I love the addition of the purple to make things even more interesting. I would like a lighter shimmer, but that is personal preference. And I'm sad that this palette has been neglected so much because it really is beautiful. I stand by that, definitely 100%. Maybe I'll roll it into a project, get some use out of it. That would be great because it's really not been used that much. Okay, so finally we have something that isn't a green palette. This is an orange amber palette, which means I like it, but I have some issues with it. This is my second P. Louise palette in my collection, my 2 out of 2. And this is what it looks like. Now, the colour story at first glance, love. I absolutely love this. These tones you very rarely see in eyeshadow palettes. These super cool tone purple mattes. Oh my god, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. These are the only super cool tone purples that I have in my collection, matte-wise anyway. I think I do have a single shadow, but we're not counting them. These tones of mattes and these tones of mattes, they are way too close together to all be in this palette, you know? And I find that with P. Louise in general. P. Louise comes out with these beautiful colour stories, but they'll have like 3 mattes that are 1 tone apart from each other. And it's like, on the eyes, you're not gonna notice that. You can easily get rid of this middle purple and blend these 2 purples together and be absolutely fine. You don't need 3 shades, 3 tones away from each other. I'd rather have a super deep purple, a mid purple, and then a pastel purple. And then the same with the blues. A super deep blue, like this tone, beautiful. Mid-tone blue, so maybe put this end blue in the middle and then have an even lighter blue to blend it out. Eyeshadows blend, that's the whole point. If eyeshadows didn't blend, then maybe I would understand this because you need to put every single tone on the eye. Eyeshadows blend though. So why do I need such similar shades? It's very much a P. Louise thing. I've noticed it in their palettes. They come out with like 50 shade palettes and there's 7 browns the same shade, just like 1 tone apart. Even if these didn't quite blend, you can mix them, you know, to just get this. It's one of the reasons I don't really buy from P. Louise much anymore. Their palettes are just redundant. I feel like they are a little bit redundant and I don't want the same shade but slightly different 12 times in a palette. But they blend really nicely, they're pigmented, you know, everything other than that is 10 out of 10, absolutely love. These shimmers, beautiful. This shimmer is called Snow in Love. It's a duochrome. It's like such a good tie-in because the flip is each of these color stories. So we've got a light cool tone purple and then a super deep blue. I love that. I think that is so fun. You can see it swatched there. And this just pulls in both of those color stories. It's absolutely stunning. Love it. And then this shade, Ice Ice Baby, is just a nice inner corner shade. Love that. Beautiful. This is an amber palette. I would do a lot of rejigging if I was P. Louise. I don't know, I just don't like how similar the shades are. Like you can see with this palette, they're all going to blend out together, but they're not all the same tone. We have a deep, we have a mid, and we have a light. That's what I like. I don't want 3 lights. Gimme range. Okay, moving on. We have Lethal Cosmetics. Now, this is an amber palette. This is a palette that I made myself. So the color story, obviously I love it. I made it. This was £80. And I remember this stung. This was the first very expensive eyeshadow that I bought, eyeshadow palette, because obviously it's custom. I made it myself. Color story 10 out of 10. Pat myself on the back. I did well with this color story. However, I don't get the hype with Lethal Cosmetics. And I know Lethal has a cult following. I just don't see it. They're nice. I have a few of the shades on today. I have this shade on and this shade on. I don't think it's worth £80. I know I made it myself. I know it's custom, but whoo, £80 is a lot. What have I put? I made the color story myself, so of course I love that. I find the duochromes are not noticeable at all. So we've swatched a lot of duochromes today. Indie brands do duochromes well. However, I can't tell which shades are duochromes and which aren't. I'm pretty sure this one is supposed to be a duochrome, but you cannot see it. And one of the reasons that I bought this palette and paid so much for this palette was because I thought I was getting duochromes. Where's the shift? Like where is the shift? It's meant to have a yellow shift, but the shift is just the light hitting it. You know, it's not a shift. It's just slightly lighter where the light hits it. I'm very disappointed with that. I want duochromes. I want the Pastel Roses duochromes. I want even P. Louise duochrome. So you can see this is a duochrome. It's really beautiful. Shall We Makeup did it, and I bought that palette for £11. This is £80, and there's no duochrome. I find that really sad, because if I knew that these weren't actual duochromes, I wouldn't have bought this palette. And these shimmers are the type of shimmer formula that some of them are really not, it's so inconsistent, this palette. This shade I don't like at all. Of course it swatches fine now, but it's just a really firmly pressed shimmer formula, and I like a very loose, piecey shimmer formula. These are not that. Again, I can use it. I like it every day. Great. It's not wham pam in your face, which I love. I love wham pam in your face. I am Caitlin wham pam in your face Costello. I love it. I don't reach for this palette because it's not special to me. I could get a very, very similar look with my Colourpop High Tide palette and a few taupes. You know, it hurts me to know that I paid £80 for this. All the duochromes are not noticeable at all, and a lot of the shimmers are so hard to the point where there's little payoff. Very drugstore reminiscent. Ooh, I feel catty. I really do, but I've got to be honest. The mattes are nice and pigmented and blend together well. Not as impressed by this palette as I thought I would be. Not worth £80. £80. See, if I got this for 40, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. But again, I know it's custom and I know that's going to drive the price up, but holy crap. Yeah, amber. Like, it's not awful, that's the thing. Maybe my expectations were just very, very high because everyone loves Lethal Cosmetics and I'm just like, I'm not in love with it. I'm just not. Okay, after that doom and gloom, we are moving on to our final palette, and this is a green palette. Now, I'm not sure if these are classed as indie anymore, but I'm putting it in this video anyway. My old friend. My old friend. My Juvias Place Zulu palette, she's been beaten up. I love this palette. This was my first colourful eyeshadow palette, and so it will always be loved by me. It really will. I've got 3 pans in here. Absolutely love this. This quality is still incredible, even after like 8 years. It's been that long, I know. I have this shade on my eyes today, as well as this shade. I think it's beautiful. I really, really do. The color story, it's a little bit all over the place. It's very one tone. You know, you can't really deepen up much with this. But for my first colourful palette, I will always be thankful to this because this is what started it. This is the one to blame. You would not think this palette is over 7 years old. The quality is absolutely outstanding. This was my first colourful eyeshadow palette, so it has a very special place in my heart. The pigmentation, 10 out of 10, especially for a drugstore palette. It's also hypoallergenic, and that's really hard to find at an affordable price. If you have very, very sensitive eyes, this is hypoallergenic. All of Juvia's Place is hypoallergenic. Double check before you buy because they may have changed the formula or something, but last time I checked, Juvia's Place is hypoallergenic. You'll be fine, but double check. I'm not being sued. I absolutely love this palette. The colour story could have been more cohesive, but the madness is beautiful. Like, it has a beauty to the madness. This last row, not my personal style. I don't wear pinks very much. But it's so sentimental to me. And I didn't realise how sentimental this was to me until I started my write-up of this. And then I was like, I actually love this. This is so sentimental. I love it. So what is your favourite indie palette? Let me know down below. Do you have any of these palettes in your collection? And do you disagree with anything that I've said today? Maybe I've mentioned something that I don't necessarily like and you absolutely love. Or maybe I love something that you really don't like. That would be so interesting to hear down below. But with that being said, this is where I'm gonna love you and leave you for today, guys. I hope you have an incredible day, and I will see you tomorrow for a brand new video. Bye bye.